Okay, we have one attendee. We have 14 panelists on a meeting right now, and we are live. I will set my view to speaker view. And Andy, you can start anytime.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. How are you? We're trying it again. I wasn't here last month, but you tried the this hybrid meeting. So dude's been working really hard on it, I know, and he's got a lot of little cues for me. I hope I don't mess him up too badly. So help me out if I start falling down here. So with that said, everyone okay? Anything to share with us before we begin? No, everyone's smiling and happy. I don't see many smile. I see a little bit of a glimmer of a smile from Holly. That's good. Okay. With that said, officially open the meeting of November the 1st, San Diego LAFCO. Call the meeting to order. Would anyone like to volunteer to do the pledge this morning? Let's see, who's my default person? Jim, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Certainly. If you could all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America.
and to the republic for which
it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
with
indivisible,
liberty
with liberty and
and
justice.
justice for all. Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
Okay, just right off the top, we all should have received an amended agenda for today that added item 7C. Does everyone have that?
Yes.
Okay, we'll proceed on that agenda then. Okay, agenda review and disclosures. Are there any?
I
don't have Executive Officer Keith Simons, Andy, so I don't see any disclosures from the commission, but let's hit pause for a second and ask Commission Clerk Luckett to do the official roll call for the record.
Okay, thank you. Right, I skipped right over that. Roll call, please, Tammy.
Thank you. Commissioner Salad,
Here.
Commissioner Desmond,
Here.
Commissioner Kate. Here. Commissioner McKenzie. Here.
Oh, no, thank you.
Commissioner Vander,
Present.
Commissioner Willis. Here. Commissioner McNamara,
Here.
Commissioner Vargas. Here. Alternate Commissioner Becker,
Present?
Alternate Commissioner Anderson,
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Burt is absent. Alternate Commissioner Drake is absent. Alternate Commissioner Mathis. There's a quorum with 8 present.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the misstep there.
Chair Vanderlyn, if I may add on, going back to item 3, agenda review. So as you correctly noted, we did have that one amended agenda that we sent out last week. And so with that being noted, we don't have any changes to the items that we have before you, but we do have a request with respect to shuffling around the business calendar. So Chair, when the time comes, if the commission would be so kind as to essentially flip the script and take up agenda item 7C, the legislative report first, and then go to 7B and 7A, which are both tied to the scheduled performance review, right? Executive officer. I'm guessing the commission council will want to also go into closed session between 7C and 7B. So just a placeholder for the time being, and then we'll do a reminder once we get back to the business calendar.
If I could just tweak that slightly and say that we will actually take up 7B before we go into closed session. And then when we come out, we'll address 7A.
Okay, any objections to going to 7B first? No? Okay. All right, so 7B then. Who's going to take that? Are you taking it, Keen or Solly?
Well, actually, so this was just, when we get to the business calendar, we'll tackle all these items in the first order. So this was just a placeholder comment, Chair, but we're good to go with.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought you wanted that to go first. So follow the regular agenda.
Yeah.
As usual then. Okay,
Thanks, sir.
thank you. All right, so any more agenda related items, disclosures? Is that it then?
I
Okay,
think we're good to go, sir.
I'm sorry, did someone say something?
Yeah, we are good to go.
Okay, thank you. A little slow at the switch this morning. Okay, a public comment and related requests. Are there any public on? I don't see. Oh, there's 2 attendees. Does anyone, any commission member or attendee have any, public comments to make?
Chair, we received no public comments.
I'm sorry, Tammy, say that again. No comments?
We received no public comments were received.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anything else then? Excuse me. Item 5 then, the consent items. Keen?
Thank you, Chair. So the consent items are what they are. We do have one person from the public who has asked to speak on item 5G, as in girl. All the other items and the recommendations are good to go, though. So perhaps, Chair, a motion would be in order to accept the balance of the consent calendar with the exclusion of 5G, and then we could take that item up and hear from the public.
Okay. All right. So was there another comment there?
No, so we have a motion from the floor from Commissioner Vargas and a second by Commissioner Kate to approve the balance of the consent calendar with the exception of 5G.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? Okay, hearing or seeing none, those in favor signify by aye.
Actually, Chair, I think we'll need to do a roll call because we do have a couple of resolutions snuck in there.
Oh, okay. All right then. Roll call vote, Tammy.
Commissioner Desmond,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas, Commissioner Kate,
Yes.
Commissioner McNamara,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie. Aye. Commissioner Willis.
Aye.
Commissioner Salas.
Aye.
So we have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you, Tammy. So with respect to item 5G, this is our regular report out on current proposals on file. I believe there was a email comment received that has been circulated to the commission with respect to the City of Vista's proposal on file involving the Mara Vista Island annexation. Tammy, do we have the speaker in the queue right now?
I'm not certain.
You know, if do we have anyone on Zoom right now?
Want to speak, they will raise their hand.
Okay, so speaker, the gentleman, the Mara Vista Island annexation, if you raise your hand on the Zoom application, we can bring you to the commission. Okay, it doesn't look like gentleperson is present. So Chair, in case they come back, we can come back to 5G. It's an informational item, so there's no action needed. So perhaps we can go forward with public hearings, item number 6.
Okay then.
Could I,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to step in. I don't know if anybody else is getting this delayed repeat feedback issue. Just me. All right.
No, it seems a little delayed to me too, Holly.
What I was going to ask, could you read that email into the record, because I didn't get it. I didn't.
Very good. So I'm going to look to one of our staff in the office or in the dais. Priscilla, do you have that email handy? Okay, so why don't we go ahead and assume that you can do it in 3 minutes, and we'll give you some liberty. Put pressure on. Go ahead and address the letter or provide the letter into the record.
Okay, thank you. So comment for LAFCO meeting of November 1st, 2021 with regard to the Mar Vista Island reorganization. So we're calling to LAFCO's attention the potential insufficiency of the environmental documents which the city of Vista may yet submit with its proposal to annex the Mar Vista Drive area into the city of Vista. The Board of Supervisors is aware that litigation was timely filed regarding the county's inadvertent pre-approval and thereafter its delayed final approvals of environmentally encroaching downslope developments immediately adjacent our active septic leach fields in a manner which remains in violation of SECA requirements and in violation of several county codes. This litigation was dismissed without prejudice, with the court's intent that the county would address the inappropriately deferred environmental mitigation upon the next discretionary action involving the subdivision, and is a lawful requirement. In an effort to avoid further costly litigation in this matter, we have minimized the occupancy of our home and waited patiently for this next discretionary approval to finally trigger resolution of this public nuisance. This Mar Vista Island reorganization project proposal currently under consideration is this next discretionary approval, highlighted at issue. The county approved development in question exists in direct conflict with the specific conditions of subdivision approval, which the county had, after careful consideration, required of future developers, i.e. all future construction in the subdivision is onto the original contour with no major cuts or fills. In adopting these conditions of approval so as to allow subdivision approval under a mitigated negative declaration, the county made a binding and continuing commitment to enforcement of these mitigation measures or appropriate substitutions of alternative mitigation measures. The purpose of these measures is to protect all downstream tributaries from exposure to effluent. The two former directors of the Department of Environmental Health concur on record that if not for limiting the occupancy of our home, an active environmental issue would almost certainly exist. Obviously, limiting the occupancy of a home is not a situation which can be maintained for an unlimited period of time. We discussed with the directors a worst case scenario of the home being occupied by family with teenagers who are notorious for taking long showers. The expectation is that under those conditions, there would be a raw effluent surfacing on the face of the cut slope on the adjacent property. Our realistic concern is the possibility that LAFCO will unknowingly approve annexation of our subdivision into the city of Vista in a manner which could relieve the county of San Diego of its inappropriately deferred responsibility to perform a supplemental EIR and the substitution of an appropriate SECA mitigation measures. This responsibility remains mandatory after having set aside the conditions of subdivision approval it had earlier adopted in order to approve the subdivision under a mitigated negative declaration. County Council has documented that a boundary adjustment may be the only viable solution to providing adequate sewage disposal to allow for normal occupancy of our home. Our concern with the annexation of these properties without considering adverse environmental impacts is that the only remaining feasible substitute mitigation measures will be permanently lost through the authorization of continued development on the adjacent encroaching properties. as has already been the case with the inappropriate deferral of mitigation measures. While we understand that the county will remain responsible for septic system approval, we also understand that the city will be taking over responsibility for all other development considerations. These encroaching properties have approved septic systems, so the likelihood is that the county will have lost its hammer in deferring environmental mitigation, and the city may very well not take over the responsibility of appropriately addressing the matter. Signed, Robert Hall and Eddie King.
Thank you, Priscilla. So that was the public comment received for 5G. And this is for a pending application that will go to the commission once we're done with the administrative review. We're certainly happy to answer any questions on the item 5G as a whole. But again, this is a proposal that Priscilla just referenced that will come to the commission for future consideration. So we don't want to have any limited discussions.
Can you be sure that that letter or email is in the project myself back to the commission?
Yes. And then separately, I do have a note here. This is from Dew that at least Holly's having trouble with the feedback to the point where she's not hearing us. It's all mumbled. So not sure if there's anything we can do on our end.
Erica, Andy, everyone else having major delay. We're trying the new Zoom webinar this time. So
It sounds fine. It sounds fine on my end.
This is Andy. I'm having a difficult time hearing it very well. It does sound a little mumbled.
Or
Is there an option for those who are having difficulties to call in?
Can we zoom out and come back in here maybe?
I like that idea.
they can try that, or they can do it by phone.
Why don't we try that? So for those who are having trouble, if the chair is agreeable, assuming the chair can hear me, why don't we allow maybe a couple of minute break here, allow those who are having trouble to log out, log back in. Chair Vanderlyn, if that's okay, let's proceed there. And again, just maybe a 2-minute recess. Maybe if the vice chair can hear me.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you, Jim. All right, so we'll be on a quick recess. Please hold position.
Okay. Miriam,
We are still,
This is.
by the way, everyone, if you don't mute yourself, we are still being live on YouTube.
I'm gonna
Okay, just to be aware.
go out and come back in. Can you do that? I'm just trying to be able to hear it better, to reconnect.
Fixed on my end.
Thanks, Sally. You can hear us okay?
Yep, yeah.
I can hear it, yeah. I can hear it now. Am I back on?
Can you hear us, Andy?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
Yeah, we can hear you, Andy. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
I'd like to give a,
The other screen with the, that's on the slide.
I'm not sure how it's going here.
How do we get these up here? I'm good to go now. Thank you. Everyone else okay? Should we resume? Is that a yes, Keen? Should we resume now?
Give us 1 more minute. We're waiting for one commissioner to come back into the room.
Okay. Now, how do we get this up here?
We did.
Tell me what cough. Oh, you're coughing. What was it?
Hi, Commissioner Drake, are you there?
Who's that speaking?
That's me, Andy. I'm asking if Commissioner Drake was able to join us.
Okay, thank you. Did you get a response yet?
Commissioner Drake?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
A little quiet, but we can hear you.
Okay, very good. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning, how are you?
Apparently technically confused.
So am I, so join the crowd.
Very good.
Is there any way that I can get the list of the commissioners that are at the meeting room? I don't have them on here. It only shows me the ones that are on Zoom.
I was just holding until we are missing Chris Kate to come back in the room. So I just kept it as the screen.
Yeah, but the others I don't have that are in the meeting room, except for Keen. Well, I don't see Keen's name up there either, but he's coming in and out.
I stopped the screen sharing, so we should be able to see the meeting room now.
Okay, I can see the meeting room. I just wanted to, it's hard to discern the people that are there. Do you have a list of them that you could put up or not? Showing them as a panelist.
No, this is your Zoom list.
I have the Zoom people, but I don't have the panelists at the
Meeting.
at the meeting at the COC.
Sorry, Andy, what did you say?
I wonder if there's a way that I can get a list of the commissioners that are at the COC meeting room.
The list?
Perhaps we can email Andy, just maybe,
Tell me yes, email would be good.
Yes, email would be fine. Thank you.
Here's Chris.
Okay, Chair Vanderland, so we are back to full strength in room 302. So if you'd like to call us back to order and we can proceed with our public hearing items.
Okay. Yes, officially calling our meeting back to order. We'll go to the public hearing items.
Thank you, Chair. So the first public hearing item we have for the commission today is a proposed sphere of influence update for the Ramona Municipal Water District. And I'm going to ask Priscilla Allen for the staff presentation.
Yes, thank you, Keen. For the record, my name is Priscilla Allen, analyst with San Diego LAFCO. And then we have our PowerPoint up on the screen here in a moment, which will be for agenda item 6A, the sphere update for the Ramona Municipal Water District. So this notice hearing is for the commission to take up its required 5-year sphere review and updates for the Ramona Municipal Water District, and in doing so, designate the appropriate current and near-term designation for its 5 active service functions: water, water, fire protection, emergency medical, parks, and recycled water. The update comes subsequent to the commission completing the prerequisite municipal service review back in October, which included a deep dive into the district relative to the requirements by the legislature, with key conclusions and recommendations, which are summarized in your agenda packets. So there are a couple of premises that merit attention by the commission as you move forward in considering the sphere updates. Most pertinently, past decision-making has resulted in Ramona's sphere of influence comprising 2 distinct categories, one being the primary sphere and the other being the secondary sphere. So the primary sphere is the orange up on the screen, and it spans 46,000 acres, and this service area is in respect to most of the district's functions and including water and fire protection. The secondary sphere or service area is the purple up on the screen. And this came about in 1994 when the commission activated the district's wastewater service function as a result of dissolving the Ramona Sanitary District. And so there are two distinct areas as well for this area, and that's the Santa Maria service area, which spans the 7,000 acre area, and then a 3,800 acre area, which is the San Vicente service area. Staff believes changes to both of these sphere categories are merited for reasons within your agenda report, but also I will summarize. So on the next slide, you'll see the special study area as well, which is area B, and then area A at the very bottom. So the first change staff is recommending involves expanding the primary sphere at about 40 non-jurisdictional acres, which again is area A on the screen. It's located on the southern perimeter along Dos Picos Park Road and Cloudy Moon Drive. Adding this area to the primary sphere would eliminate an existing unincorporated corridor between the city of Poway and the Ramona Municipal Water District, and would signal the commission's expectations that should they need elevated municipal services, they should go to the Ramona Municipal Water District rather than the city. The second change involves establishing a special study area, shown again as green on the screen. And this would comprise about 400 acres located immediately outside the activated wastewater service area and involves the site of a development proposal known as Cumming Ranch. The establishment of this study area would signal the commission's intent to explore the merits of an otherwise substantive expansion in the secondary sphere related to jurisdictional change over the 5-year timetable, and then while spotlighting the topic for the benefit of the public. And so with that, commission, those are the proposed changes, and I'll conclude my presentation and available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Are there any questions for Priscilla?
I have a question. This is Mr. McKenzie. On the area A, are those on the same ownership or different ownership? And the only reason I ask is because it looks like we have some area in there that is still in, I'm not sure exactly which unincorporated area, whatever the point is.
These are 3 separate parcels with 3 different owners that we're proposing to include.
Okay, so those that are not crosshatched, were they contacted, asked if they wanted to
I'll jump in. So the area that's crosshatched is actually, or that's not crosshatched, and that's just white on the screen, that's already in the sphere of Ramona. So what your staff is suggesting is let's make a clean line and create a sphere line that goes parcel specific down that southern line in a A to B formation. And these are different property owners.
Okay, so those that are in white should have been in beige or whatever color.
Well, they're in the sphere, but they're not in the district.
Any other comments?
No, I was asking about the study area. What is the suggestion of that? Was it further study?
Yes, so it's for further study, so establishing a special study area so that we can then explore the merits of it. I can give a quick overview of it if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do have a speaker on, his name is Chris Brown. He's with the Alchemy Consulting Group. But from what I've read on the project, it's a 600 plus almost 700 acre project. 450 of open space, and then the remaining would be 125 residential units. And so they would need wastewater service, and so that's why they're bringing this forward.
Chair, this is Executive Officer King Simon. So as Priscilla mentioned, And seeing that we don't have any more questions, at least here in room 302, we do have one registered speaker on this public hearing item. Are you able to bring him forward?
Yes, I'm here. This is Chris Brown.
Mr. Brown, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. Again, my name is Chris Brown. I'm representing the Cumming Ranch project. First off, we'd like to thank the Executive Officer Keene Simons and his staff member Priscilla Allen for their working with us on this matter. Cumming Ranch does support staff's establishment of a special study area to the secondary sphere, compromising our 389 acre project known as Cumming Ranch. And it's located immediately outside the activated wastewater service zone established by LAFCO. This is part of a development application under administrative review by the County of San Diego. The establishment of the study area would signal, as Priscilla said in her staff report and PowerPoint, would signal the Commission's intent to explore the merits of an otherwise substantive expansion in the secondary sphere and related judicial change, pardon me, while spotlighting the topic for the benefit of the public. Again, as representing the Cumming Ranch project, we support this direction and recommendation and look forward to working with the staff of LAFCO and the Ramona Municipal Water District through the successful conclusion of this process. I'm happy to answer any questions the Commission or staff may have, and thank you again, Keene and Priscilla, for your work with this on our behalf. Thank you.
Are there any further questions for Priscilla or anyone else?
I'll make a motion to approve the item.
Second.
Thank you. Is there a second?
We have a second on the floor from Commissioner Willis.
Okay. It would be helpful for me visually and also for hearing if you have, when you have a motion or you have a comment, if you'd raise your hand and identify yourself, I would appreciate that. Okay, so with that, roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Commissioner Salas,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie. Aye. Commissioner McNamara,
Aye.
Commissioner Kate,
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas. Vargas, yes. Commissioner Vanderlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond.
Aye.
So we have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 absent. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on either of these items, Keene?
Well, so now we have our second public hearing item, Chair, which is 6B, the proposed Sunset Drive change of organization. And I'm also going to ask Priscilla Allen to do a quick staff report.
Okay, first we'll close the public hearing on item 6A and open the public hearing on item 6B. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dean. Thank you, Chair and Commission. So this public hearing has been noticed for the Commission to consider a change of organization proposal application, which has been filed by an interested landowner, Alliance Development Services. We have 2 parcels spanning about 6.6 acres and it's located within the city of Oceanside, which will be up on your screen shortly here. Just up on your screen there. The proposal comes to the Commission for the explicit purpose of making Oceanside the exclusive potable water service provider to the affected territory, and by eliminating an existing overlap between the city of Oceanside and the Vista Irrigation District. Approval would facilitate the planned development of the affected territory into a 48-unit townhome complex referenced as Emerald Ridge, which is subject to a tentative approval by the city of Oceanside. 2 related approvals are needed from the Commission today to make this happen. The first, the Commission is being asked to detach all of the affected territory from the Vista Irrigation District, and this includes a modification to exclude half an acre of adjacent public right-of-way along Sunset Drive. The second is the Commission is being asked to concurrently amend the Vista Irrigation District's sphere of influence to exclude all of the affected territory, and in doing so accommodate the proposed detachment. With these 2 noted approvals, with these 2 approvals noted, the agenda report before the Commission proceeds to address all of the factors required for consideration under both statute and local policy. And this includes focusing on the timing of the proposal relative to the commission's growth management tasks. Staff concludes the proposal and the support of SECA documentation produced by the city of Oceanside as lead agency for the primary jurisdictional change is sufficient, and we recommend a conditional approval with the latter including our own standard terms as well as those requested by the Vista Irrigation District. The reference sphere amendment is also part of the recommended approval with LAFCO serving as the lead agency and finding the action exempt under the general rule provision. So with that, Commission, I conclude my presentation and am available to answer any questions. We do have a representative from Alliance Development Services online today, Jim McMenamin. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla. Do we have any commissioner comments?
I do have a question. So they're detaching, so where are they going?
Thank you, Commissioner Willis. So they are currently within the city of Oceanside already, and so detachment would just eliminate that overlap. Welcome.
So do we have any public comment on this item? Hearing or seeing none. Do the representative want to speak, or just only if we ask him questions?
I believe we have the representative, and go ahead, sir.
Is the representative on, due?
He is, and he's up to speak, but I don't see him trying to, and he's muted himself. So I asked him to unmute, but no response. So
Chair, this is Keith Simons. I think the applicant is satisfied with Priscilla's sterling presentation. So looking at Tammy, it doesn't look like we have any other public speakers.
No other public speakers.
So Chair, you could take a motion if you are ready.
Well, first of all, Jim, did you have a comment?
I'll just move approval, item 6B.
Okay, is there a second?
We have a second from the floor from Commissioner Willis, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the question? Hearing or seeing none, roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Commissioner Vanderlyn,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Aye.
Commissioner Vargas. Vargas here. Commissioner Kate.
Yes.
Commissioner McMenamin,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie. Commissioner Willis. Commissioner Salas.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 absent. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public hearing then on item 6B. May I have a business calendar, King?
Thank you, Chair. So as we had discussed earlier, I'm going to start off with 7C. 7C is our legislative report to the commission. And as we detail in the accompanying agenda report itself, this is our opportunity to do a check-in on 2 fronts. One is to advise the commission of the items of interest to LAFCO from the most recently completed legislative year. And then perhaps more pertinently, as we'll discuss, to pivot and think about some items of interest that are at least on the horizon going into the next legislative year, which I think begins in earnest at the end of January. So with respect to the baseline, the LAFCO needle did not move much this legislative year. In fact, the only changes to the statutes that you oversee, I think, are considered minor and were all captured as part of an annual omnibus bill that the Assembly Committee on Local Government, which is our overseer, if you will, produced. That said, in looking forward, staff is assuming, Commission, the same will not be said for next year. At least there will be effort, certainly, to move the LAFCO needle on 3 known fronts. Okay, so one of those fronts we've talked about at some length here over the last few meetings, and that is our interest in direction at LAFCO to sponsor a bill to make explicit that LAFCOs here in San Diego and elsewhere in the state have exclusive authority to determine when agencies need to come before you and seek approval to provide new or extended services. And true is applies in the reverse to be the deciding referee, if you will, when local agencies don't need to come and seek your approval. We detailed this bill, or at least this proposal, at our last meeting. And I'd like just to update the commission that since October, we've been having almost weekly meetings with LAFCO, who has joined us as a co-sponsor. And I had a very good conversation with members of the California Special Districts Association by way of Commissioner McKenzie's scheduling, and I appreciate that. So that proposal, again, San Diego LAFCO being the lead sponsor, is off and running. And the goal is to get an author and to have this introduced by the February deadline. Now, there are two other items that are worth highlighting for the commission. First is this longstanding issue or interest at LAFCO to streamline protest proceedings. The commission will recall, especially for those who are here during the Julian reorganization, that's a section of law that comes up anytime we approve a jurisdictional change where we don't have 100% consent from landowners and residents. And anytime we do something big, like potentially the Mara Vista annexation from Vista that you heard about, that's going to be coming to you in a bit, you're going to have to hold protest proceedings, and they're not the easiest section of law. So LAFCO has done a good amount of groundwork over the last few years, aided in part by a working group that includes Commissioner McKenzie and Commission Counsel Watley, and they are intent in introducing a bill next session. The key for us to keep in mind, the perhaps golden arch of this effort, at least from LAFCO's perspective, is to make the protest thresholds even with respect or irrespective of who the initiating applicant is. Right now, under law, if a landowner, voter, or other local agency is the initiating party of a jurisdictional change that you approve but is subject to protest, at least 25% of landowners or voters' signatures are needed to trigger an election. The threshold is much lower for LAFCOs. It's only 10%. Those of us in the LAFCO ranks think that it should be equal at 25%. And we can talk about the merits of that if the commission wishes. But the third and perhaps most pertinent item on the legislative horizon that I'd like to discuss with the commission comes with a recommendation for you to get in the game, if you will. And it involves a proposal that your staff submitted to LAFCO as part of their annual call for legislative proposals a few months ago. And it draws on some comments that this commission has made to staff over the last few years. I recall a couple of pertinent comments that Commissioner Salas and others made when we were going through the Valley Center municipal service review process. And the common theme was there seems to be a bit of casualness when it comes to engaging the public. And there's nothing really written in statute when it comes to ensuring that there is some formal feedback. So staff, of course, pays attention to these comments. And we went ahead and submitted a proposal that would do a couple of things, but in particular, it would create a communication loop in the municipal service review statute that does not currently exist. In particular, when LAFCO, this LAFCO or others were to complete a service review, the statute would require agency X to put that final MSR document on their own agenda, at least for informational purposes or perhaps for action if they wanted to provide comment. That's the headline amendment that we see, because commission right now, when we do a service review, we certainly communicate with the staff, perhaps the city manager, the general manager, but rarely do we get the full feedback from the agency itself. And I know that because it's not listed on their agenda. And of course, under the Brown Act, it would be implausible for an agency to provide their feedback to LAFCO without being on the agenda. What we're proposing is a remedy to that, and we require those agencies to at least put it on the agenda and at least facilitate some formal feedback to LAFCO, and in doing so also engage their own public. So we think it's a good bill to be made. We like it so much, and Cal LAFCO seems interested in it to the degree that they've encouraged me, not directly, but to ask that this commission expend a little bit of its currency in name and resources and sponsor the bill, presumably with Cal LAFCO as a co-sponsor. But I think it's worth our interest at San Diego LAFCO, being the biggest LAFCO in the state, and certainly a LAFCO that is invested in its municipal service review program, to be out in front of this item and offer it as a sponsored action for the upcoming legislative year. Very much would appreciate the commission considering that recommendation. So with that, I'd be happy to take questions. And Chair, I see that I have one question already from the floor from Commissioner Vargas and then Mackenzie.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion to support this, and I think this is really important and great work. I just would like to have a little bit more description around what communication means, because just because an item is on an agenda doesn't mean that communication with the public will happen. And so I don't want to just assume that that is sort of the trigger, right? I would prefer that we are very intentional about ensuring that communities are engaged in the process to ensure that we get feedback. I think it's important, and sometimes the folks should know about some of these issues don't know because of, you know, whatever the barriers are, either language, you know, communications, et cetera, et cetera. So if there's somewhere in there that we can be very clear about sort of doing this from a very equity-minded perspective, right? That we really want to make sure that communities are engaged in that process. I would just add that on. I'm happy to make a recommendation.
Well, and this is Executive Officer King Simons. So Commissioner Vargas' comment is well placed. Staff struggles a bit about our own way we engage with the public to make it valuable. What I would suggest as a thought would be for the recommendation to include direction for staff to work on local policies on how we at San Diego could best engage the public. And that would be related, but somewhat of a standalone effort on the legislation itself, just to get the communication, as I define it as, hey, you got to put it on your agenda as the starting point. And perhaps if Commissioner Vargas is agreeable, for direction to staff then to fine tune it locally through a policy.
Yeah, I'm fine. The only thing about that is that when you're creating legislation for the state of California, right, and if we're going to be the big champion, I would like to see the word to include community engagement. That would suffice for me, and then each local jurisdiction can define what that looks like to them. How about that?
Very good.
If that works. And then we, I think, as a policy, can make a decision about what does local engagement looks like for us as we're trying to ensure that everybody understands what these issues are about.
Understood, and I think incorporating the phrase for purposes of community engagement would be certainly agreeable at the staff level. I'll defer to the rest of the commission, and we could talk to Cal LAFCO as well about it, but that would be a fine motion for today's purposes. And then we have another question, Chair Vanderlyn, from Commissioner Mackenzie on the floor, and then we can hear from those on the virtual world too.
My question is, do you have an unfunded mandate done for these?
Not in the way I define a local unfunded mandate, because the service review is going to happen every 5 years, right? So it's not a perpetual every month or every year thing. I think the legislature's expectation is that they're already communicating with us. We're just asking that at some point in that communication, the full board or full council weigh in, as opposed to right now, there being discretion on who follows up with LAFCO, if at all.
I'd like to see a policy on this. Sometimes we get carried away because we don't, always have policies in place, and we go to the, law, and what may work for us, what we need may not for others. And I agree, we need, and I've said this before, that we do need to encourage agencies to put this on their agenda for discussion. Because I know I've served on this irrigation district for over 20 years, and I've never seen it on our agenda. And I always have to keep asking because I've been on the advisory committee or as an alternate before. And it doesn't happen. So I think it's a good idea. I just question whether or not we want to go to the expenditure of sponsoring the bill, because there's a lot of heavy lifting. And the fact that LAFCO is going to have a new EO come, actually executive director, come January, February. They already have quite a bit of sponsoring legislation on their plate that this may not get vetted. And if legislature figures that this isn't a mandate, then you're looking at getting stuck in appropriations. And I'd like to hear what the California Special District Association, what their thoughts are on this before we go forward.
You have a follow-up from Commissioner Vargas from the floor?
Yeah, so I mean, as having been someone who was an advocate and used to do this work for a living, I don't necessarily think that there's actually like an appropriation. I mean, with this right now, I think the power of San Diego carrying such legislation, especially when it comes to anything that has to do with really, this is really about transparency, accountability, and engagement. The fact that we have the pro tem in San Diego, we have the chair of appropriations, and we all have strong relationships with all of them, and they understand the power of our region, seems like a very natural thing for us to do. And having supported legislation before in the past, we can make a decision that we're not going to allocate, a lot of money to it. We could just, it's Me-Too's, it's sending a letter. There's ways of doing it without spending a lot of money on this. And I used to advocate from San Diego to Sacramento without having to physically be there, especially now with Zoom and all this other work that we're doing. So I'm not sure that there's a lot of cost, but I completely understand your concern about the fiscal implications of it, both on staff side as well as on the state side. But it doesn't seem to be, which is why I was okay with supporting it or making the motion at the beginning.
I'd like to.
Chair,
Chair?
I think we have a couple of comments from the Zoom now for you. From the fellow commissioners.
Yes.
Yes,
Chair?
Mary, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to support Nora's motion, the supervisor's motion. I think that she's dead on point, realizing that we do have right now in San Diego, we have the ear of the legislature, and I think that we should utilize our that influence in order to get the legislation passed that is necessary for LAFCO. So I will second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes, who's? Sorry, go ahead.
This is Commissioner Willis for the record. I'm trying to look on here to see. Are you requiring some kind of time frame for them to get it on their agenda? Like you want within 6 months or a year?
I believe that the way we have suggested it, and again, this is before all the vetting occurs, but the proposal that we submitted to LAFCO would be on the agency's next agenda that can be accommodated through whatever posting and or publication requirements they would have.
Immediately
Once they receive it from LAFCO. So the bill actually would involve LAFCO having to make sure that we transmit the final document to Agency X within 30 days. And then at that point, Agency X would then be required to put it on their agenda at the next meeting, which they can do it.
And then that LAFCO would not take action until that happens, until the local agency did agenda and have question on it.
No, so this is an item in which the final MSR is completed and accepted in some manner at a LAFCO. And then we would transmit the final document to the agency for them to put on their agenda, for the explicit intent of getting feedback and engagement on policy issues that we raised in that document.
I will refer to, wouldn't it be, if you want community engagement, wouldn't it be better to have it on their agenda prior to the final? So that they can see what the draft is, in other words, Ramona would have put it on their agenda, the draft, before it comes to us for a done deal.
Well, keep in mind, so the communication with the city manager and general manager is occurring up until the commission takes action. But once the commission takes action, we now have the commission having set policies on their expectation for Area A or Agency B, transmitting that document to that agency for them to then address in their open meeting is the value in terms of tying it together. It avoids the scenario that has happened before where we will produce a report with recommendations that involve the agency and it never gets fully discussed by the agency. Having the commission take action first ahead of the council or the board would be appropriate. But to your point, Commissioner McKenzie, all the pre-discussions are certainly critical and perhaps go to the Commissioner Vargas' comment about a local policy where we figure out our game plan and how we get that early feedback from the community. And perhaps that's a good way to distinguish it between getting the council and board to comment on the final document is what this proposal would do. But the local policy can develop procedures to solicit community input going into that final action.
I'm sorry, but I don't see the value of having public comment come out after we've already approved something. We can comment on the conditions. Are we going to come back then and change those conditions?
So I'll give an example.
Okay.
We produced a municipal service review with some very poignant, direct comments to our resource conservation districts about getting them to comply with LAFCO law about outside service expenses or extensions. Then there was another resource conservation district in our mind that was doing groundwater management that we don't think they had the power to do. Not one of those agencies put that on their agenda after we took action. So the commission has not gotten any formal feedback or any indication that they have taken up the item at all, even discussed it. That's the remedy, or the proposed item before you seeks to address that, to ensure that if the commission is going to provide those kind of recommendations, that City X and District Y full board are going to take that up.
Keen, a question for you, Keen. With the local policy that we would put together, would you draft that? And then would you come back to us, or would you go ahead and send it forward?
I certainly, the motion would be for me to work on that local policy and bring it back through the commission to vet, probably do a couple of drafts, and then at your pleasure, presumably adopt or approve.
So that would come back at our December meeting then?
Probably not December, but sometime soon.
Okay. All right. Are there any more questions or comments on this item?
We had a motion on the floor.
Did we have a motion on the floor? Did it include the drafting and the coming back?
Yes, so we have a motion from Commissioner Vargas, a second from Commissioner Salas to proceed with the recommendation to sponsor the reference proposal on the MSR communication loop, as I refer to it, along with then direction for staff to work on a local implementing policy, focusing in on how we communicate and get feedback from the affected residents and interested stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. Another comment? Is there, excuse me, is there another comment?
I have a quick comment. Keene, who's going to be the point person on the sponsorship? On this site?
Sandy LAFCO, if you proceed with your motion to approve.
And a person on staff, will that be Priscilla? Or
It would be Priscilla with my help.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then Tammy, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Commissioner Desmond,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas, Commissioner Kate,
Yes.
Commissioner McNamara,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas.
Yes.
We have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 absent. The motion passes.
Okay, thank
So
you. Item 7, business calendar. Keene, what do you have for us there?
Well, so now I'm going to defer for Holly to lead us the rest of the way under business calendar.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Holly, please.
Yes, we'll take up item 7B as in boy first. That is the designation of labor negotiators. This is just a business item where the commission needs to vote to designate the labor negotiators for the closed session item regarding an adjustment to the executive officer's salary. So before we can go into closed session on that item, the commission needs to designate those who will negotiate on behalf of the commission regarding that salary adjustment. In the past, the commission has, the normal practice has been to designate the members of the executive officer compensation committee as the labor negotiators. Those members this year, right now, currently, are Commissioners Desmond, McKenzie, and Vanderlin. And so now would be the time to entertain a motion to adopt and designate the labor negotiators and discuss if those are the 3 you want.
Okay, is there a motion?
McNamara moves approval.
Thank you, Paul. Is there a second?
Vargas second.
Thank you.
And just so the record is clear, it was a motion to designate as the labor negotiators the 3 individuals I mentioned, Commissioners Desmond, McKenzie, and Vanderlin.
Okay.
And now we can have a roll call vote.
Yes. Tammy, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Salas,
Yes.
Is she falling down or is she okay?
He said yes.
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie. Aye. Commissioner McNamara,
Aye.
Commissioner Kate. Yes. Commissioner Vargas. Vargas, yes. Commissioner Vanderlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond.
Yes.
We have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 absent. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We can
All right.
Go to closed session now.
Well, if we take up item 7A just initially,
Okay.
as we noted in the agenda, this item may be taken up following the closed session, which is what I do recommend and that we do, because any adjustment to salary must take place in open session, but you want to have an opportunity to complete the performance review and discuss with the labor negotiators any adjustment. So what I'd like right now is if somebody could make a motion that we just continue item 7A until after the closed session is completed.
Commissioner Willis, so moved.
Motion a second. Roll call vote on this too. Yes. Tammy?
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanderlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas,
Vargas, yes.
Commissioner Kate. Yes. Commissioner McNamara,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie. Yes. Commissioner Willis.
Aye.
Commissioner Salas.
Yes.
We have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 absent. The motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, if we pick up with item number 8 on the agenda, we still have 8 and 9 before we get to closed session. And then when we get to closed session, if you toss it back to me, I'll take it from there.
Okay.
You see it. Where's 8 and 9? Sorry.
Okay, so
I believe 8 is the executive officer report. So just very quickly, Commission, we are again slowly transitioning into our new office home. The supply chain crisis of America still affects everything that we do, and that includes our furniture purchases. So one day we'll have an open house, virtual or otherwise, but we're still in setup mode. I do want to advise the Commission on one substantive matter relating to your oversight, and it involves the San Diego County or San Diego Port District. And so the background is, for whatever the reason, San Diego LAFCO historically has not treated the Port District as a special district under purview of San Diego LAFCO. Well, in the process of a couple of issues, one in particular, we did a reorganization a few years ago. As those who are here will recall, involving the Sweetwater area. We called it the Sweetwater reorganization, and annexation of unincorporated lands to the national city. That triggered a process for your staff where, using outside counsel, and I'll come to that component in a second, your staff has determined that the Port District is in fact a special district subject to San Diego LAFCO. And we've been talking to the Port about our at least tentative findings to date, and they're digesting this. As you can imagine, it probably comes a bit of a surprise to them, because there's 2 impacts to them. One is just the oversight of another body, but then they would also be considered an independent special district, which means the gift of contributing to LAFCO every year as part of our budget. So your staff is working right now with outside counsel on finalizing our determination. And again, our tentative one is, yeah, you're a special district subject to LAFCO. The reason why we are using outside counsel, just for the record, is Commission Counsel's office does have pre-existing business with the Port. And so we've decided to use, as our policies allow, an outside law firm, Sloan, out of Sacramento on this endeavor. So I just wanted to give the Commission a heads up that sooner than later, a final determination will be made, and then at least at the staff level, and perhaps there may be a request to reconsider it from the Port, and that would go to the Commission itself. So heads up only. Other than that, that is my executive officer report.
Thank you.
So the question, Chair, from Commissioner McKenzie is, isn't there some delineation in statute on this? And yes, there is. And that's what we're basing our decision, or at least our tentative determination on. And I'm not suggesting the Port sees it differently. The Port is simply wanting to look closer into the matter before committing a comment one or the other.
Okay, other than surprise, what's the initial reaction from the Port Authority?
Again, I think it's just a function of this is new to them, and so they're digesting it. And they do have a new director too. So I'm sure that he's learning about LAFCO on the go and wasn't anticipating doing so.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for the, yes.
Yeah, I got a question. I understand we can do this, but should we do this? I think also needs to be addressed. To me, this is another government on top. This is almost like the Coastal Commission that keeps kind of and I don't know if it's a creep or whatever, but what's the benefit, I guess, to the residents of San Diego County if we take this action? I'd like to see not just can we do it. I want to know why we should and what's the benefit to the region, or are things going okay now? I'm just kind of, this is, I don't know if did the board give this direction or this is staff's implementation, but I'm not sure we should.
Understood, Commissioner Desmond. And to your question, it's a good one. Should we do this? Well, I would suppose it's not necessarily a discretionary, at least at this level, in the sense that we're looking at the code section and it's in our mind rather direct, that it is a special district. But again, we've offered the Port District the ability to help us understand any blind spots in our reading of the statute. To the comment about what would be the benefit to the public, well, like any special district, if it's under LAFCO overview, you now have a mechanism to go to if you're a resident or a landowner and seek a jurisdictional change through a known process. That jurisdictional change could be annexation, detachment, or dissolution. And so that would be the benefit to the public, that there would be this governmental body in place should there be interest from the community to make a change.
Okay, I guess I would like to know more of the benefits, and if we don't do it, what are the risks? And you know, I don't want to be found liable because we didn't do it, but this is the first I'm hearing of it, and it's just not. I'm more into the why, as if not if we can. Is kind of where I'm at right now, and you don't have to explain it all today, but hopefully this comes out of the studies that we're doing from. I guess before we move forward with it, I'd like to know why as opposed to can we, which is what I think the attorneys are going to tell us, yes, we can, or no, we can't. But I think we need further discussion as to how this is benefiting, like I said, the citizen or the citizenry of San Diego County, or is this just another layer of government on top of another one that has gotten along well so far? Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions for Keen? Okay, we'll go to item 9 then, Commissioner announcements. Request for future items on the agenda. Are there any?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner McKenzie. I have a couple quick reports, mostly on meetings that I attended, and they were related to meetings for LAFCO. And on the business meeting, we did not have a conference this year because of COVID and the restrictions of the facility where we were going to have that venue. So it was held virtually. We had the annual meeting. Basically what we did at that point in time was approve the elections for the directors. And I was re-elected as the special district representative for the southern region. And Aquanetta Ward's city council person from Montana was the city representative for the southern region. The following meeting, the next day, was with the board of directors. And at that time, we held the elections. And the way the elections run for LAFCO is that it is understood that everyone moves up so that the vice chair is automatically chair and it moves on up. And then that only leaves then the secretary position open. And Aquanetta Warren was elected to that position. We did go over some of the legislation, and we reviewed the IRS 990 form because LAFCO is a nonprofit 501c3. set up the meeting dates for next year. And I don't think there was anything else that was too exciting for that meeting. And then, had the, Cal LAFCO Legislative Committee meeting, and that was held on, for the 1st of September. And Cal LAFCO is going to be sponsoring the 56133 and looking at comments from the consultant for the assembly was that to put everything that we wanted into one bill, which would be 56133, the protest threshold and the reorganization of the protest provisions within CKH into their own section. With the idea that, okay, if one or the other got a lot of feedback, then it gives Cal LAFCO the opportunity to go ahead and make amendments or modifications. Whereas if we try to put it into the omnibus bill, once there's any dissension from any of the stakeholders, and that includes ARPA, CSDA, the lead CSAC, but it also includes a lot of other JPAs and associations. So you have about 37, 40 stakeholders that could kill the bill, you know, without any ability to make any kind of major improvements on that bill, make it acceptable. So that was one of the comments. And then there were 7 changes, as like King indicated, to CKH that were approved in the omnibus bill. And we are looking at the stakeholders, as I said, can oppose it. That's basically it. I'm looking at there's a couple other, there's about 3 other proposals that have come in from the EOs on legislative priorities that would be included in the omnibus bill. And we had a special meeting, closed session special meeting regarding a new executive director. I guess notification went out to, and I'm not sure exactly who, but everybody and anybody requesting an application, and we got 6 applications, and that was vetted by the executive committee. And they were proposing to send 2 of those applicants to the full board for review and discussion and an in-person meeting over, I guess what. So anyway, so what happened between, let's see, so what happened between the 7th of October and about the 12th of October was that one of the top 2 found out because she took another job. So that was done. So what we did and decided at that special meeting was to hire a recruiter and have them send out a broad net to their contacts and see what we come up with. But in that meeting, Cal LAFCO is a executive director, it's a part-time position with no benefits. So what we decided, and it was basically feedback from the recruitings, that in the day's job market, that part-time, no benefits, we weren't going to get anyone up notch. And with any type of experience, whether it be LAFCO experience or managerial experience. So at that meeting, we decided that we needed to review just exactly what that position was going to be, and since it got out as a full-time position, the recruiter sent out this Monday a brochure to his contacts. So we're looking at getting something hopefully back in 2 months and have a new EO on by sometime in January. And that was one of the comments and concerns that I had when we were discussing the new sponsored legislation as to just how much bandwidth the new executive director might have in assisting in the sponsorship of new legislation. And then the other one that I attended, it was a webinar, and it was part of the meeting, the business meeting for the LAFCO conference. And it was put on by the Homeland Security, their Department of Internal Security, and it was basically cybersecurity. So one of the things, there's a couple of comments that I'd like to make, and it was be sure that you replace all of your systems that are no longer supported. And that goes all the way down, not just your software, but that goes all the way down to printers also. So make sure that your iPads and all of your other devices are all up to date and all supported. And you know, there was assessing your network remotely. There was real concern, and what they're finding out is that the agency may have good firewalls, they may have good protections, but with the Zoom meetings, what are our individual securities? And if we have consultants, and where we're concerned is that when we have consultants, they have access, they need access to our servers. And I had not been segmenting that which they knew that they were going to have to get information from. They basically, once this company got into the servers, they had the ability to go to their children and young, and it would compromise the system. The other thing that they recommended, because it's becoming more and more prevalent, is phishing, is to be sure that staff is aware of what a phishing is, just because it says that you just won the lottery for the city of San Diego, and you know, click on this and we'll mail you the $10,000 check tomorrow. Don't do it. And in fact, they recommend policies that staff not be, I don't say permitted, but yeah, tell them it's not permitted to use company devices for personal. So in other words, when you see, you know, on Facebook on your lunch hour, you know, you do it on your own computer or your own iPad or device, and not on your desktop if you're sitting there. Cyber, this is the division. It's CISA. They do cyber assessments. They will come in and look at your servers, printers, everything, and they will monitor your system on a weekly basis. And the only problem is there's like about a year wait for them to come in, because there's only 2 per region, which means there's 8 in the state. But what they will do is, once you basically get into on their waiting list, they will send you a weekly monitoring report, so that you will know instantaneously what type of intrusions or problems that other agencies are having. For instance, the water district in Florida, they knew that probably a week to 10 days before it was actually hit the news. So that is a service.
Okay, Joe, is that pretty much it then?
That's it, I'm done.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Congratulations on being reelected to the LAFCO board. You're a great commissioner for us.
Gluten-free brownies left?
Gluten-free. That was like weeks ago.
Was it?
I don't know what happened there. Anyway, thank you for your service for Cal LAFCO and for our commission as well. Are there any questions for Joe? Okay, any other commissioners have any comments or have some information for us today? Okay, if not, then we'll close item 9 and we go to closed session now, Holly.
Yes, what I'll do is before we formally go into closed session, I'll read the 2 items and the authorization to go into closed session. And then just logistically, we'll need to take care of, stopping the live stream. And then we will have the folks that are present in the meeting room. Well, I think they can step out, including I think you can step out because then we won't need you. We can go out there and get you and bring you back in for any technical things as needed. So with that in mind, before we turn off the YouTube, we'll be going into closed session for 2 items, 10A and B. A is public employee performance evaluation under Government Code Section 54957, Subdivision B, and the employee is the Executive Officer, Keen Simons. Item B is a conference with labor negotiators, and that is pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. And the designated representatives were the ones that you designated in the earlier agenda item, and that is the Executive Officer Compensation Committee, and that is Commissioners McKenzie, Desmond, and Vanderlyn. And so with that, I think we can ask Due to take us off the live stream. And also, I don't know technically if there's a way that you can ensure that we don't have any other attendees pop in.
Holly, I will provide you with the co-host ability. I believe Commissioner Joe Anderson has his hand raised.
So people on the Zoom, do we have to leave the Zoom and come back to the Zoom, or do we just stay put, or how does that work? Or are alternates supposed to be on the closed session?
So folks that are attending by Zoom can remain. Alternates can leave if they want. They do not have to stay. They can attend the closed session, these 2 closed session items if they want. They won't be voting unless during the closed session we lose. If somebody has to drop out, then they may be called on to vote. But they can also leave right now if they wish. But folks should stay on Zoom, and I believe I'm saying that because I believe Due can arrange it to ensure that we proceed confidentially and then come back on.
I'm not so sure with the webinar, Holly. So I think I will probably have to kick everyone that's not in the closed session off of Zoom.
Yes, you should.
So
I don't see any
3 commissioners. I will be kicking everyone out.
Right, that's right. You'll be taking staff out.
It's just the Zoomers will remain then. Yes, you can make this happen, Due.
I will close the live feed now.